I was of the impression that the Cleveland Cavaliers needed to pick between their present and their future, and they did neither. Welcome in or welcome back. Day 17 has us talking about probably, at least in my opinion, the most confusing team in the league, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I guess I'm kind of confused, if only because I put out a video earlier this summer explaining the two avenues that they had, whether they could focus on the future or the present. If they went down the present road, we're talking about a tandem of Donovan Mitchell and Jarrett Allen and building around those two pieces. And if you wanted to focus on the future, we're talking about Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. But somehow the Cleveland Cavaliers managed to pick both because they extended both Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, and they brought in Kenny Atkinson, which I want to put on record I feel like is the correct move as far as a coaching perspective goes because of the tight end connection that he has with Jarrett Allen, but he seems to make misfit toys fit. And I think that that's what this Cleveland Cavaliers roster actually is, just a bunch of misfit toys. Very talented toys, but misfit toys nonetheless. I used to be very high on Darius Garland. My opinion on him has kind of cooled off, and I don't think that that's necessarily his fault, and I don't think it's my fault either. I think it's due to the fact that Donovan Mitchell is such a ball-dominant guard that it's kind of hard to see what Darius Garland could actually be because he doesn't have the ball in his hands. He's not a prolific three-point shooter, so it's kind of hard for him to impact the game in a way that doesn't require having the ball. And again, I don't think that that's necessarily the wrong move because we look at the kind of player that Donovan Mitchell is, and that's a all-NBA type player. He's very good. There's a reason that he has the ball, and there's a reason that he gets to call all the shots that he wants. I just think that it's very weird that if you're going to have a player like that, you are teaming him up with someone as good as Darius Garland. And that's just the backcourt issues. If we're talking about the front court, we're talking about the same kind of issue. I'm personally such a big fan of Jarrett Allen. I think he's a great basketball player. He's a type of basketball player that you need on your team, someone who blocks shots and rim runs and catches lobs and all those things. But when you're looking at someone like an Evan Mobley and what he could be, I think that we're really missing out on some potential there. I know it seems like forever ago, but there was a real conversation, there was a real time period where we were looking at Evan Mobley and looking at him and going, that guy has the next X amount of Defensive Player of the Year awards wrapped up. But then Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama came into the league, and now he's kind of been looked at as an afterthought. And I don't want you to forget, Evan Mobley is one of the best defenders in the entire league, even though we don't get to see it because he's paired up with another great defensive talent in Jarrett Allen. I don't want to put too much slander on here, but I think that a lot of times when we're looking at great defenders, we kind of compare to what they have around them. Rudy Gobert, at least a couple of his Defensive Player of the Year awards, were solely given to him because of his defensive acumen, obviously, but a big part of that was because of the lack of defensive talent around him. That Jazz team, where he was winning those Defensive Player of the Years, if they had one average defender, I don't think that Rudy Gobert gets looked at as Defensive Player of the Year candidate. So when we look at that Cleveland Cavaliers team with a Jarrett Allen and an Isaac Okoro and a Darius Garland, but he wants to play defense, that team is so much better defensively that it kind of dwindles and it kind of dwarfs what Evan Mobley can actually do on the defensive end. But more importantly, I think that we are moving into a type of basketball, at least for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and a type of offense overall in the league where you need someone who could stretch the floor as a big, someone like a Kristaps Porzingis, someone like a Chet Holmgren, someone like a Karl Anthony Towns, and then you also need to pair someone up with that player with a more traditional rim-running center like you see in Boston, like you see in Oklahoma City now. There are other ways that you can view a team, but I think that that seems to be the secret sauce. And if we're looking, again, at this Cleveland Cavaliers team, Jarrett Allen or Evan Mobley aren't going to be one of those things. They're not going to be this sharpshooting stretch five. So I think you have to make a decision on what you actually want to do with one of them. And I mean this in no disrespect to Jarrett Allen at all, but if you just laid two players in front of me, say which one do you want, I'm picking Evan Mobley only because of his raw upside. And that's not to say that I don't think that Evan Mobley could potentially eventually be one of those guys. It just doesn't seem like that's his slot in life right now. I don't think that he is very comfortable being a four and being expected to be a stretch four when that really isn't in his game. If anything, we need to view him more of a Bam Adebayo, someone who is a super versatile defender, someone who can guard 1 through 5 legitimately, and occasionally shoots the outside shot. And as long as Evan Mobley shoots a respectable like 35% from three, I think that's all we could really ask for him, because that's all he's required to do to stretch the defense. But for him to be that kind of player, we have to get rid of Jarrett Allen. And I think that there are a ton of teams in the league that would require and offer much draft capital or even good players for someone like Jarrett Allen. So again, if you're considering the future and how this team meshes, especially in the playoffs, I would consider moving Jarrett Allen. I lay all of this out only because it seems like the Cleveland Cavaliers saw that video that I posted and decided to not do anything I said, if only to piss me off. I just don't see it in the cards for them. And because they didn't take heed to my advice, because they decided to go all in on both the present and the future, I think Kenny Atkinson is probably going to have a pretty short leash. As a matter of fact, I think that it may be now or never for the Cleveland Cavaliers because of the landscape that is the NBA. There are so many instances where not a first-year coach, like a rookie coach, but someone who is in the first year of an organization, they need to improve so fast. They need to prove some sort of attainable, some sort of malleable skill or asset or something like that to hitch their wagon to, that if they don't show that in the first 20 games, you get yanked and you get fired. And if that's the case, if as good of a coach as Kenny Atkinson is, if he does not figure it out, if he can't get the lineups right and he doesn't get this team to mesh very well within the first 20 or 30 games and he gets yanked and fired, I think we're really talking about a complete rebuild for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I mean everybody. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, everyone's gone. I would have to imagine that they bring this team all the way down to the studs. If they wanted to keep one of Darius Garland or Evan Mobley, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But I think at the very end, if this team doesn't work, if Kenny Atkinson can't get it figured out, I think that we're actually talking about a brand new look for the Cleveland Cavaliers next season. Now, I don't want to feel that way for Cleveland fans, but the way that the NBA works and the way that the landscape of the coaching carousel is, I've seen it too many times to not think that that's exactly how it'll go if Kenny doesn't perform. I believe in Kenny as the coach, but a lot of it is going to be up to the players. Play style and fit are some of the most important things in all of basketball, and I just don't think that the Cleveland Cavaliers have much of either right now. But that's just one guy's opinion. What do you think of the Cavs? Let me know down in the comments below. Check the link tree while you're at it. Join the Discord. Be kind. Tell somebody you love them. And I'll see you tomorrow.